Welcome to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast, where we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. As always, I want to thank you for subscribing, following, and sharing my podcast episodes to your connections and spreading the inspirational stories shared by my wonderful guests each week. And I really appreciate your support. But now, on to our next guest. Tracy Carroll is a passionate parent advocate dedicated to championing the rights of children and educational needs and disabilities while supporting their caregivers. Tracy shares her experiences to help empower families to navigate the complexities of disability and caregiving, understanding the grief, not in the loss of a person, but the loss of expectation, and supporting your child as you find peace in acceptance. Tracy strives to create a supportive community for parents and carers alike. Tracy, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Sharon.
So, you are one of the 500,000 carers in Ireland that has lent your voice to advocating not just for your own family, but also for the many families out there and the children that voices aren't heard. Can you tell us about your story, Tracy, for anyone that hasn't seen you as an advocate or on social media?
So I am mum to two, married to John, and we have two children. So Noah's 11 and Willow was 8. Um, and Willow suffered a catastrophic injury at birth and was sent home when she was 4 days old to die. She would be 9 on the 1st of December. So what should have been just the typical celebration of having another child became a living nightmare. And we brought Willow home when she was obviously very vulnerable, very tiny. They didn't expect us to even make it as far as Blanchestown. We were in the Rotunda. And we had her funeral planned, everything in place, and just waiting minute to minute, hour by hour for her to pass away. But she had other plans, and here we are.
Amazing. And it strikes me the resilience of children. I resonate with you in the fact I had a sister. She was born in 1970 and she contracted meningitis when she was only a few days old. And like that, the doctors told my mother that she's not going to survive. But my mother said, we'll see. And she survived until she was 28.
Wow.
So again, and I think it's a lot to do with being a mother, isn't it? And even
Yeah.
though your child has these needs, the will and care and love for that we have for our children, no matter what's going on with them, that
Yeah.
we want them to survive and want them to be part of our family. And how
Yeah.
amazing, and that strength in Willow, even now, surviving. But of course, there's the joy in her surviving. But then you said it was the reality of the needs that Willow would need in time.
Yeah, I suppose it's like walking continuously in parallel universes. I was like there was a lot of bargaining with God and praying that she'd stay. And I remember walking the hospital floors before we left, and I was holding Willow, and oh God, word perfusions goes around in my head. There was a lovely nurse who kept saying, "Oh, her perfusions now are poor. She won't have long," and that's all we kept hearing. But by hour, she wasn't going anywhere. And I remember it was the middle of the night, well, the early hours of the morning, and John was lying asleep on the bed in the room, and I was carrying Willow. And I think it was the first time I really gave myself to her in a sense, because it was very much from the offset when we knew there was issues when I was having her, that it was that fight or flight mode. So I really had kind of left my body and I was just mechanically dealing with the situation. I hadn't tied any emotion to it. It can be very practical, sometimes too practical. But I held her and I begged her to stay. And I said, it doesn't matter what we face, I will do anything. Just stay with me and we'll fight it on. And we did. Um, so it's continuously like that parallel world. She's my daughter. I just see her as Willow. And I don't recognize that other people see her as disabled. I often think, do people see her, which is, very complex. She would have severe physical and intellectual disabilities. She's stunningly beautiful. She's the most gorgeous child. And when she smiles, everybody just loves her.
Mm.
So I often, kind of forget that side of things. But then on the other side, you're continuously reminded of her challenges, her difficulties. She struggles a lot, with health issues, and she goes through an awful lot day by day. Um, and then she just chuckles and she's just Willow again. So you're constantly, you know, walking two sides of your own existence. We've built a world around us. We have a really happy home environment, but then, within the hour, things can change dramatically for the worse. Last weekend, off, out of the blue, we spent 2 days in hospital. So it's constantly always been on edge, but then just trying to live a typical life in a very untypical situation.
And it's so true. And again, like that, I remember in our family, we saw my sister as just part of our family.
Yeah.
She was our sister. And again, even growing up, and and Noah being Willow's brother, he just accepts her as she is. And I
They
remember,
adore each other.
yeah, and for me, that's the way it was until somebody said, "Oh, is it not scary having a sister that has fits or, that can't walk or can't talk?" And I never thought about it like that as a child. I never did. But I do remember one of my brothers saying he wished that he was sick and that Mammy would spend more time with him. So there is all of those
Yeah,
challenges that you face as a mother and John faces as a father, is that of course that child with the additional needs will require more of your time and your presence, and that
yeah.
Noah may feel sometimes like he's at the side. But I believe with you he's not, because you're very much,
Well, he has actually said to me when Willow was born, I felt like he left me. And in
oh
those, the guilt around that was consuming for a long time. But I tell you, he takes up more of my attention now.
yeah.
But I did leave him in a sense. I hit the ground running with Willow. We tried every alternative therapy going. I was up and back and forth to Newry for months doing hyperbaric chambers and everything. And people were supporting us by Mind and Noah. And he went from being my everything, my little sidekick, to really just kind of, as he said, being left and
Mm,
not intentional. We were just doing our best. And it is a continuous struggle for him as well, because we could have plans made and I'm like, sorry, no, I'm going into hospital with Willow. We can't do this today because Willow's not well. I tend to get very little sleep. Like I'd be up 3 o'clock in the morning. And he actually said to me yesterday, well, if you're tired, why do you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Now I'm tired because we moved house and I literally did
mm,
24 hours on Friday to Saturday. It's like, no, I don't choose for that hour. That's the time that Willow gets up. Um, so we just his life, it's normal for him because he probably hasn't known so much different from the age of two, but it is very challenging for him as well. Um, I think now, we're all at that place where Noah, is equal in his needs, and Noah's actually neurodivergent as well.
mm,
So he would have his own stuff going on and his own supports and therapies and that. He's it presents as a typical child, but there are, stuff supports that he needs. So he gets that intervention as well. And we do a huge amount of him. But it was trying to get to that place where you're dividing your time and you're ensuring that both your children are getting their needs met and with equal time. So it's always tipping the balance, and
mm,
he feels it very heavy that his sister doesn't have the same opportunities as him. He'd often question people, why can't my sister come here? Why don't you
mm,
have the facilities? Why can't you make her life equitable? And it's not just about equality, you need to ensure you hear yourself back through his little
mm,
voice. And he has spoken at events and he's spoken at the National Council of Special Education around, diversity in school. So he's gained a wealth of knowledge from supporting his sister, but still in his innocence at 11, he only recently said to me, what do you mean Willow's never going to walk and talk? You always told me there might be a chance that she will. Um, you still forget that he's a child. He's probably had to grow up very fast as well.
yeah.
So it's very difficult, and there is not a support system for carers in the country, never mind the people that you're caring for, but the siblings are really forgotten. and their lives are incredibly impacted. And I think if you don't offer them a secure, safe environment, it can be detrimental to them as well, growing up and coming into, teenage years and adulthood as well. And that's something that we really need to look at going forward.
Yeah. Two things strike me when you're talking about Noah as well is his resilience, but what, the wisdom that he has gained. And I know you said that, he's had to grow up, but imagine him as an adult and knowing what it's like to live with someone that needs care, to see his parents doing everything, being advocates, being the voices for Willow. And that's going to give him so much going forward that
Mm.
other young people will never understand. So he's going to educate other people. And I know that's years down the road, but he's already doing it in a way
Oh,
because
he
he
is,
sees the
yeah.
difference. He sees it's not all equal. And because he has his beautiful sister Willow, he's like, well, why can't she do this? Which is
Mm.
amazing too. And I think, like you, Tracy, when we haven't experienced something, of course, we're unaware of it. And that's what I said. It's education, it's talking about it, and you're an amazing advocate. As I said, you're no stranger to interviews and talking about this. And that's a powerful thing to have because not everyone out there that is a carer or has a child with special needs or their other children may not have a voice because they may not understand the complexities of what it's going to look like in a few years. But that's what, these conversations are about and this podcast is about. It's celebrating the resilience and the awareness that we can share with others. So I see two sides to it. I see the practical day-to-day complexities of your lives, but I also see the strength you have given to Noah and that you're giving to others by speaking out. So well done.
I think for me, it's always about, we share our story, but it's not about our story. It's
Yeah.
really about that advocacy piece. And I
Mm,
fell into it accidentally, but it's kind of grown in so many different directions. I work with Inclusion Ireland. We've just established the Coalition for Special Education. I work in the Royal College of Surgeons as a patient's voice in their interprofessional learning piece. I work with Family Carers Ireland. I've just been made vice president to Safe for Births Ireland. So it branches out when you don't expect it, but it is all about giving voice to other people because it is incredibly challenging. It's
mm,
exhausting, and it's the mental health for carers is really, just something that people don't appreciate. When you close your door at night, your world is very different to the door that
mm,
we close, and what goes on inside our house is a 24/7, and that's the same for carers. And you may have someone who doesn't have as big needs as Willow, but there can be so many other, needs within that house. And so every carer feels their feelings the way they do. And I wouldn't say to someone, well, my situation's worse than yours because we all carry our feelings different. So it's about supporting everybody. But again, through all the work I do, I continuously go back to childhood because what happens in your childhood shapes you for your future.
mm,
Um, and I'm working with Senator Orby McCarthy now as well, and he is around recovery and addiction and homelessness. And you meet so many people, and then you talk to them about their childhood, and everything comes back to their childhood. And I suppose as an advocate for carers or people with disabilities, um, you know, you as a parent, your life experience and how you manage your situation differs from every home. And if we don't have the support system in for the people who are caring for the vulnerable, then the vulnerable are the ones that are going to suffer. And it's the same for children. If they're going home to a troubled home
mm,
or trauma within the home or disability within the home, and the parents don't have that set of skills, then the child will suffer even more. So I think for me in all of this as well, it's centers around childhood and the home and supporting people within the home. And people will contact me a lot, for minor or major things, and it's always just sometimes when you offer that olive branch or just say to someone, I understand what you're going through. That can be the change in the day for somebody because it's a really, really lonely world. Very lonely. You could be in a room full of hundreds of people and be incredibly lonely because your thoughts are probably very different to someone else, or you might step out of your house for an hour just to go shopping and Willow might have a nurse, but there's always that fear of a phone call, or if I
Mm.
come home and she's unwell. So your mind is never detached, even if you physically are unattached for an hour, half an hour, but you know, I never go far. And the impact of that as well. And I suppose for Noah growing up, he's an incredible empath. Like he is just the most caring person in the world. If we walk by someone on the street who may be homeless or sleeping rough, he'll literally rummage through my pockets and my bag, or see what he can give them, and he'll always offer everybody the same respect, no matter where they come from, what their situation is. And it's gorgeous to see. Like he's just a really, really kind child. And he'll carry that with him through life, you know, and I expect that he will always kind of care for other people, or maybe walk that path. Last year when he spoke at the NCSE, I sat there kind of gobsmacked, you know,
Yeah.
at his ability, and he was so articulate, and he was only 10 at the time.
Mm.
So even though his world is incredibly challenged at times and different, the life experience he gets from that is huge going forward, because he hasn't just a typical childhood, you know, he walks the adult world as well at the same time of just trying to navigate being a child. But their skills he'll bring with them. And we do ensure that he feels safe and, you know, part of everything that we do. So he's not removed from it, I suppose, in a sense. But we do protect him as much as we can. But like everybody else, we're just trying to do our best.
Yeah. Just powerful listening to you, because again, like all parents, we're trying to look after the needs of our children, and they're all individual, but when they have special needs or neurodivergent, you are. And again, in your case, and I feel it so strongly with you, it's like having to be there all the time. It's 24 hours a day. And that's what, I'd really like you to, because I know you're an advocate for that, and that Family Carers Ireland, they do provide, carers with support and like specialized training, wellbeing support, emergency respite and home support, peer support groups, and information on rights and entitlements. But when you're talking, because you're so grounded, now, because I think because you've used your voice so much and sharing so much of your life, you're very grounded in the practicalities, but also speaking about the mental health issues that affects people that are looking after someone at home. Now, 500,000 family carers in Ireland. That is a huge amount. And I'm sure there's many more that aren't even documented.
Yeah.
There may be somebody working full time, but they're still looking after an elderly parent or relative or sibling, and they're not a carer as such, in the eyes of the government, but they are caring for somebody in all of their downtime. How do you look after your mental health and your well-being, Tracy?
You know, when you talk about the carers that aren't registered, I did not recognize initially that I was a carer. I was just a parent. So it's very it's kind of a strange shift in your own mindset. And I still, you know, wouldn't really say, oh, I'm a carer, but I am. And that's the part I think that is very difficult for people as well. And the fact that our government just really take it for granted that we're going to care for our loved one, and they have not ever really fully invested in supporting carers. And I mean, the burden can be intense on a person. There were very dark days for me. I mean, after Willow turned one, from the age of, you know, when she was born, kind of racing up to one, and it was just head down and getting through that and getting her therapies. And after she turned one, um, it was really dark. I didn't recognize that I was depressed or that I was grieving, because I was grieving, and you continuously grieve. Every new piece of equipment, every change we have to make to our home, we've just moved out to adapt our home for her. You know, there's always that grief piece, and that year from age 1 to 2 was just horrendous. You know, thankfully I've got a really strong marriage, but there was times that it was really challenging as well, and I was so emotionally numb, but really hurt, and just, I would say, broken. And there's nobody that said to me, I recognize what you're going through. You are grieving. You're grieving a living person, and you will continuously grieve that. And there was nobody that recognized that or could tell me that. And I think it was just when I evolved from that myself, I went, Jesus, like I have gone through every stage of grief and commeticized. There was nights that I went to bed and wished I didn't wake up,
Mm.
just fantasizing about disappearing. I've had enough. I just want to go. How much more does she have to go through? How much more pain do I have to feel? And we need to open that conversation as well to support other people and say, actually, this is okay. I have felt like that. There's other people that felt like that. You're not a bad person. There's times when you just want it all over. Just have had enough. I can't imagine doing this again tomorrow. And it's to recognize that and to say, actually, this is okay and it will pass. And you lose yourself completely. You've lost your identity. I've lost my job. I lost, everything that I was before. And when you're a parent, that changes. But
Mm.
you know, you're excited about being a mom, and you're going through all the stages of you're buying the first shoes, the first day at school. None of that was typical. Willow will never walk. She did start her first day of school because I got a class built in the school for her to go to school with Noah. So that was amazing. So we've done great achievements. But I remember the first day she started school and I felt incredibly overwhelmed because there was all these people here to greet us. And I was like, if that was a typical child going to school, we wouldn't have our physiotherapist or our speech and language therapist coming here to greet us. I just wanted everybody to go away and leave me alone. Like really, that feeling was so intense. I was like, why are they all here? And I wouldn't speak to anybody. Like, it was a real celebration and then a grief going, just leave me alone. And there was that real sense of anger. I can feel it in my gut, even as I'm telling you now. Like I really wanted to just scream at everybody. So you catch yourself in these moments as well and going, I'm not okay here today. I
Mm.
just want to go home. So how do you mind yourself or manage yourself in that when you feel that you can't express these feelings to somebody else and people don't understand? They're just looking at you going, well, she's been a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not, like I'm really hurting here. And people just don't understand because they don't have to walk that path. And I think the best support system you can find is in your group that are living similar lives.
Mm.
And you find, I constantly say it's like Hogwarts. We're, totally in a different planet, the platform 2 3/4, because we'll never be on the same train station as anybody else. And our journey, which I hate using that word, but it is very
Mm.
different to the people across on the other platform getting on the typical train.
Mm.
We never know when we have to disembark or whether we're just going to be stuck lonely in a carriage on our own with nobody to talk to, nobody that can walk in and say, I get it, I understand.
Mm.
So I think it's really about finding what fits you because we're all individuals. Exercise, I love going to the gym. That's my thing. I haven't been there for the last few days because I've been busy and saying to my husband this morning, I'm going to the gym today. And it's that sense of relief. Um, you get the typical go for a walk, have some mindfulness. You know, that drives me nuts because most of the time you don't have the time to think, well, I'm going to sit here for 10 minutes and be
Mm.
mindful of my day when you've a million other things going right. I need to contact the chemist. I need to place my order for supplies. Oh God, I have to go and collect Noah from school. Oh, well, he forgot his mouth guard this morning, so jump in the car and that plan I had for the last hour is not going to work. Or Willow's in school, half an hour later, you get a phone call. So you cannot, say, well, I'm going to practice mindfulness today for an hour, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do this. It's about having little things that will work for you and knowing
Mm.
that you can just step into that if you have the time. And in that, there's a little safety net as well that you know what your interests are and you know the thing that you're going to do if you get those few moments. So it's like banking them,
Yeah.
you know, you have that little kind of storage jar of you and say, well, here I have half an hour. I'm actually going to do this. I'm not going to do the laundry or whatever. Um, and talking to people. I could talk
Mm.
for Ireland and listening to somebody else and thinking, you know what, no matter whose door you walk into, every family has something that's troubling them. So my world is my world and theirs is theirs. But, you stop making comparisons
Mm.
because just because someone perceives that my life is really difficult, that's their perception. And just because you perceive that somebody else's life looks golden and you wish you were theirs, you really don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And I think being really honest with your own feelings as well, and allowing today, if it's just shit, let it be shit,
Mm.
and hope to get up tomorrow. And it's just really good because none of us knows when our time is up. And I think that's the one thing that I have learned from this is valuing the spirit of everybody. And Willow, as I say, I don't see, that
Mm.
she's really impaired. I just see Willow because I really value her as a person, as a little girl, when her cheeky laugh or her grin
Mm.
and her love of dance music, and she's hilarious. If she knows there's a camera on her, she just turns that on. She could be giving out, so it's catching all of that and just remembering. For me, it's really about remembering is this is all transient. We're all going to
Mm.
pass.
Yeah.
And it's just about catching the moment.
Mm.
There's days where the fear is so heavy upon me, and I think, what will I do when my hands are empty and she's no longer with me?
Mm.
So I'm just moving with each day,
Yeah.
cherishing today. And if today is really bad, I just hope that tomorrow is better, and banking, all of the smiles and the laughs and the cuddles and the happy moments. And I think that's, for me, it's how I've learned to just really manage the days when your mental health might be screaming at you to just get in the car and just drive until there's no end.
Yeah.
It's just sitting in that moment going, God, this is just really hard.
Yeah.
But I've got a bank of lovely memories and hopeful expectations, and I'm just going to hopefully dig into that bank now and come out of this moment.
Beautiful. Without you even realizing it, you are practicing mindfulness, and I laugh too because people say, "Oh, I don't have time to sit for the hour and everything." And I said, "No, we don't have to sit. That's just that illusion that we've been sold. You are very present in the moment because you have to be, especially with Willow and with Noah. But you're very present with your feelings, the awareness of them, the highs and the lows and the real down dirty days that nobody wants to fully talk about. And I think that's where your advocacy is so strong because you're very truthful and honest about those days and those feelings, and that some people may want to hide that because they may be ashamed of saying it out. How could I feel like that, when my child is alive? And I'm going, it's okay to say it, hiding it is what hurts you the most, but saying it out loud and saying it for real, like you're doing, Tracy, is whether we have children that have special needs or additional needs. Every parent has days when they just want to get more
Disappear.
sleep. They
Yeah.
want to drive in the car and they want a break. But when you don't have that opportunity, when you don't have that choice because your child needs you 24 hours a day, there is a feeling, and you expressing that so honestly is helping other people that are in the same situation to say, oh, thank goodness somebody else said it out
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
Now I can say that maybe without having fear of judgment of others, because nobody, as you said, knows what goes on behind your door, and you haven't a clue what goes. No matter what they show you on Instagram, we
Yeah.
still don't know. So I think the reality of is being so present, that is mindfulness in action. It's being so present in whatever you're feeling, wherever you are in that moment. And the value, which is the most important thing, is valuing the moments that bring that smile to your face. The moments that you've created already in your lives, and you have those bank of memories. They are so vitally important because they pull us through the darker days, when
Mm.
some days we think getting so little sleep, it's so hard for anyone to function, but only getting a few hours every night and then still having to care for your children and to be the parent, it's so much harder. And somehow you have physically managed to do that and to keep your mental health balanced in some shape or form because you know that Willow needs you more than anything. So what you've done in a way is you've put your needs over to the side. You're aware of it because you're not sure how long you're going to have with Willow. So every day is is so precious to you.
Yeah. Every day absolutely matters. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, yeah, you could, I suppose you could get lost in all of the hard things, or you can just find joy in all of the good things. Um, yeah, she has like the most fantastic little personality. Her little smile is brilliant. Um, I would say getting up early, most people are like, how do you do? And I was like, I've all my housework done by 8 o'clock in the morning.
yeah.
The dinner's done, the ironing's done, my car's hoovered. So I think I'll always kind of try to make the best of a difficult situation. Um, and I laugh when I say to people I've ADHD as well, like hyperimpulsive. So I'm just going like my brain is like a Ferrari and it's just, constantly on the go. And you talked about shame. People feel
Mm,
really ashamed as well to have those feelings, like really ashamed. But we're human,
mm,
and we need to stop being so hard on ourselves as well. Like I don't even tell people half of the challenges that we face at home with Willow. I mean, this morning I had to irrigate blood from her stomach for an hour before I even started anything else. And then there's, the medication, and she had a few seizures yesterday, and she had a high temperature. And because she's non-verbal, she can never express to you what's
mm,
wrong, and you're constantly guessing. Um, and I don't generally say, people say to me, how is she? Oh, she's not too good, or she's
mm,
great, or whatever, because a lot of the time people, it's just a kind of, oh, how are you? And they don't really want to know, and
mm,
that's fine, or you tell people the situation, so you just have to kind of move with it, and
mm,
you lose friends and your family, you don't get to see them, and you kind of become very detached socially as well, and that's a real challenge for people too.
mm,
And I think really just the support system in other carers is really, really vital, and family carers do create a lot of space for that as well.
mm,
Um, and then there are, really lonely people out there too who don't have the confidence to make those connections. And I worry about that as well. Like, and how do we shape this for them to feel secure to contact somebody else to help? We talk about the burden of being a carer, but there's so much more that comes with it. There's a financial burden as well.
mm,
People lose their jobs. Carers allowance is means tested, and I mean the amount of money that you get a week is not even going to cover the cost of disability or care. So it's stacked, it's layered, and it's the burden is, one thing is caring for the person, but when you start knocking on doors, the HSE or your disability network teams or your education system, I mean the challenges are huge, wide, and very, very intense. And then the paperwork, and getting a letter out to say, does your daughter still have this condition? No, we were in Lourdes at the weekend, she's cured. Thanks for asking me. You know, so it's navigating all of those spaces as well. And then the fear of getting the letter from carers allowance, to be reassessed. The system changed there in June, so I got full carers, and it's gone again 2 months later. Yeah, so we got our needs, our means assessment letter. I'm not even going to fill it out because I know, like, it's not going to happen because the thresholds changed there in June. So then the push for, the government every year, you're constantly prepping for the next year's budget. People are sitting there waiting to hear, well, did I win the lottery this year? We get an extra tenner. These are all the challenges that nearly being the carer is like the center of this big black void, this big black tunnel that you have to go down, and the pressure that is put unnecessarily on people that are trying to care for a very vulnerable person is just really, I would say, disrespectful in a sense as well. We run this capitalist economy in Ireland. We're not about care economy. Even the education model is all around the end goal. What does it feed back into the economy? And we're failing all those little kids in the class who may have, neurodivergent diagnosis, or not even diagnosed, because they're all meant to be tunnel vision, heading down the same road. And until we shift that mindset within society, within your peers, within people you meet out there, that my today could be anybody's tomorrow. And when you fall into that category, it's going to be going from here to the ground because you really literally fallen away to nothing. And that's the thing as well as becoming a carer. You're trying to climb back up that ladder to find some sense of normality in your very, very broken world. It's like someone hands you a grenade and just blows everything from beneath your feet, and it'll never be fixed to the way it was before. So you're gathering shards of your past to build a future again, and you just hope that the jigsaw pieces come together, that you can really find a level playing field where you can, know that you can be grounded and face all of these challenges coming at you. So, I mean, for me, caring for Willow is actually keeping her alive, because if I leave her for an hour or two, I don't know if she'd survive. It's that intense looking after her, but I do it through love, and just pure admiration for her spirit and her resilience. And the world that she has given to me is a world I would never change, and I would never go back to where I was before, because it really shifts your mindset. And if I could touch one other person to actually look at the world in that way and just value the spirit, because that's what we are, and our bodies are just the vessels that carry us through this world. And the world that she's given to us, and the experiences that we've had, and the friends that I've made, and the beautiful people I've met, and the opportunity to help other people, you can't buy that. And the life I had before, I never had that,
Mm.
and I think that's probably the shift in my own mindset, and just really treasuring every moment. And yes, there are still really shitty days. I mean, yes, on Sunday, I have never felt as tired in all of my life. Moving into a new house, Willow had a really difficult weekend. We were in hospital last weekend. She was very sick, and she had a difficult weekend as well. And I was up in the kitchen with her, and we were half moved in, and I literally sat in the corner, like of the press, those little corner units. And I said to myself, I'm like someone actually sitting on the side of the street, with nowhere to go, just to catch 10 minutes, because I had to be right in front of her and watching her in case she vomited again. Um, and I never felt so exhausted. I was just like, oh God, please. And it was one of those days, it's like, please just give me 2 hours that I don't have to see anyone, talk to anyone, and I don't have to care. But you have to, and you have to keep getting up. And what happens to a person who's just so burnt out and can no longer do it? The person that they're caring for has failed. We don't have respite systems in Ireland. Again, it's like the lottery. I don't want respite for Willow. We're not in that place yet. But there are families that so badly need it, and it's just not available. And when we don't create a support system for carers, we create a bigger issue, because the people that they're caring for, if they can't care for them any more, then, as the state call it, the burden falls to them. So you meet these people all of the time that face these challenges daily, and again, that's just what drives me on. And when you're saying to people, how do you care for yourself, or how do you mind your mental health? For some people, there's just not even an option. It's very challenging, and it does actually upset me as a person, and especially as an advocate, it probably drives me on even further. But you wonder, what is the point, in having a government or an economy if we can't actually give everybody equitable experiences in their community, in their society, in their own home. And we talk about equality all the time, but it has to be equitable. There's no point in having equality if you're not meeting the actual individual needs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tracy, and when you talk about that and the amount of care, it's like you're saving the government millions with all of these
Yeah.
parents that are caring for their children at home, and even with all of the um, medical needs that Willow needs. I mean, you had to learn how to do all of that. You had to, all the things that you're doing, I couldn't even imagine, having to do on a daily basis. A needle coming towards me, I'd run the other side. It's amazing now, isn't it? That's what I said. Your world that becomes normal for you on a day-to-day basis. So many people not living the life wouldn't understand the challenges. And as you said, you don't share it because they don't understand it. Sometimes they don't really want to hear.
Yeah.
But what would you like to see? What would your hope for the future be? in your advocacy, in the government making changes, what would you like to see? If you had three things that you would really like to see for all carers in Ireland, what would it be?
Oh God.
I know that's not many, but say the
Yeah.
first three.
Well, it's that constant banging down doors. I mean, for a child like Willow, you know, that's just where it should be centered on. It should not be means tested, the income of a family, or, assessing the parents. Her needs should be looked at saying, okay, her needs are really intense. We need to support her. The carer's allowance is not for me, it's for her. Her need for support therapies, like we're very challenged in therapeutic care in Ireland, and if you don't do it privately, then your child will suffer, because we don't have a system in place here where we can actually have real working models of disability network teams. And again, it falls down to the HSE. If I was in the position in the government managing the HSE, it's like, you're not getting your funding unless you spend this appropriately and you actually put the funding where it's meant to be spent. Then you're not getting your funding. I just wish there was a real strength in our government that actually will just not put up with it anymore. I don't understand why we continuously fund broken models, why we put the money from our pockets into a dysfunctional broken system, and we allow it to happen year on year on year. If I get in there, I just scrap the whole thing and start again. I really would. Our kids are the most important thing in this country, and we are not offering them the supports and services they need. They are our next government. They're the next people funding our economy. And until we stop wasting money, like I could tell you, the equipment that leaves our home that can be used by someone else is dumped in storage. The amount of waste in this country is just despicable. How many big jobs are there in the HSE? It's top heavy. The nurses are, oh my God, incredible, absolutely incredible in, when we go into hospital, and yet they're the least recognized within the medical field. We're always just paying off the big boys, or the big boys are looking after themselves. We just need to reshape it all. We really do. We need somebody just strong and brave, and the white collars just need to feck off. It's so frustrating. It really is just so frustrating, you know. So I don't even know what three things you could really ask for, because
Mhm.
in every budget we have, these are the pillars of what we want. We want means testing abolished. We want a cost of living crisis assessed. You know, for example, for doing our home, it's for the retrofit, for the warmer home scheme that we're meant to be able to access, it's 155,000. That's only part of our bills. And the waiting list for that is 2 years. So they constantly put these models into place, but you can't access them. And who's accountable? It's always passing the book, it's passing the book, it's passing the book. I don't even know where you could begin or where to end. But we constantly ask for recognition. I think a word I'd like to be put in there is absolute respect.
Mm.
And people held accountable if they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
Around Willow's birth, we settled our court case in October for negligence. That will never go any further than that. People that were there on the day that she was born will never be held accountable. I don't ask for anybody to lose their job, but why are we just wasting millions and millions every year on negligence cases, and we're not going back into the hospitals and really assessing what's not working? I'd be heavily involved now with Safer Birth Ireland going forward, and we have a lot of information and research done on negligence within the hospital, and protocols being put into place and not being adhered to. So we tick the boxes, but we don't actually really follow up and ensure that the work is done. So I would like to see accountability. I would like to see equity for a person with needs. I would like to see parents actually supported and not being continuously challenged in the needs of the person they're caring for. That these places, these supports are just there finances are there, without parents terrified that they're going to get a letter in the door. We just want respect. We want
Mm.
recognition. And we want to know that the person that we are caring for is actually seen, and not just, as someone said to me before, oh, that's, oh, she's a burden. I said, no, she's not. She's my daughter. She is a person. So valuing the person,
Mm.
and an education model that fits every child, that a child does not have to fit into. A country that is equitable. That would be
Mm.
my big word. And that
Yeah.
everybody has a place in society. Like everybody has a place at the same table. And if a piece of that table has to be cut out so their wheelchair can fit into it, that it's done.
Mm.
Everybody has the same place.
Tracy Carroll, if you were in government or in charge of the HSE, I have no doubt that you will be one of the strongest voices because of your lived experience, because of your advocacy, and because of your, again, that truth and respect for other people and their needs, and that we're not all the same. And sometimes we have to, or we only become stronger and aware when we go through those lived experiences. But we become the voices then in the world for others. And I think, in a way, Willow has given you more than the gift of her life in your family life,
Yeah.
but she's also given you the gift of strength in truth and honesty in your voice. Because when we have to fight for someone we love, that fight becomes so strong within us, doesn't it? And then you
Yeah.
want to fight for everybody else. And I think that's what keeps you going, because other
You
people
know,
would look at you and say, how does she keep going?
but I think that Willow, the fight for, you say I fight for Willow. I actually think she fought for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I could write a book and stuff, my
Mm.
life before Willow and before I met my gorgeous husband John. And I think that she was my gift and that she fought for me, and what she's given to me. And that's love. I mean, giving birth to Noah, the love was
Mm.
just wow. It's incredible. And then having Willow and the love again. And like my husband, I adore him. I'm so lucky. I'm so surrounded by love. And not everybody gets that. But I would think that she's been my gift. And I think for me, that's always, I will never let her down. I'll never let Noah down or John down. And that's really, I suppose, what drives me on. I feel incredibly blessed. I'm sure people think I'm crazy, but no, I feel really blessed, and just, yeah, definitely what keeps you going.
Yeah. Tracy, thank you so much. It has
Thank
just
you,
been a
Sharon.
beautiful conversation, from the heart-wrenching pain of maybe thinking Willow was going to pass away, but then facing maybe a harder reality of her needs, but the way that you cope with them on a daily basis or have learned to cope with them and the strength that you have found in your life to help others, it truly is inspirational. And I'm so grateful that you took the time out of your very busy life to spend an hour with me and my listeners. And I wish you and your beautiful family all the best, and I hope that you get the respect and the support that you all deserve. So thank you again, Tracy.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
thank you to each and every one of you for listening to this wonderful conversation today. If you need support and you are a carer and you haven't reached out to Family Carers Ireland, please do. Or if you need support in any other way, reach out to a trusted friend, your GP, or someone that can hold that space for you, even if it's only for a short while. And as Tracy said, you're not alone in this. So please don't ever feel like you are. We all need that support. But again, I'm so grateful to Tracy and for her honesty and her courage. And until next time, take care of you.